guys, Cass here from GiveWave Studios, and today I'm going to show you guys how to turn these pieces of foam right here into the base for Deadshot's bracer. Alright, let's get into it. So you should have two base parts, two large details, and two smaller details that come with your kit. Now, doesn't matter, these are brown, these are white, sometimes you'll get red, sometimes you'll get green, sometimes you'll get black. The colors are random. At the end of the day, everything gets painted, so it really doesn't matter what your base colors are. Right? And you're also going to get 4 of these clips. Alright, so that's it for what it is that you're getting. Now let's get into assembly. And in case you were wondering, this is what it looks like with the gun attached to it. On mine, so I put a little bit of Velcro and I have 2 magnets embedded on the underside, so it comes right on and off. Alright, there's a couple of ways you can go about this. So this is your base piece. This one happens to be red, but obviously you're gonna have to paint this one black. Alright, this is black, this gets painted red, and this is black. Now it could be as simple as you painting this black, painting this red, gluing it to the surface, painting this black, gluing it to the surface, and then curving it and putting some elastic bands there and sliding it on, and you're done, right? So it could be as simple as that. I'm going to go the more complex way, so follow along if you'd like, but you know, if you're strapped for time, there's no shame in just painting all the pieces together, putting it together, and getting on with your life. So the first thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and heat seal my base pattern. Go ahead and grab my heat gun, heat seal this up. Alright, now my base pattern is nice and heated. I'm gonna go ahead and put that aside. Now, like I said, you can work from these 2 shapes and just create your part from that, but what I like to do is actually use some actual fabric and give it like a little bit of texture by adding more to it. So for example, this piece, I kind of use this to template it and cut it out of like this kind of like maroonish material fabric that you can get some fabric at Joann's, whatever fabric that you feel is screen accurate or that goes with the rest of the colors of your costume. Go ahead and cut yourself out a piece. And same thing for this. I found this cool kind of textured tactical type of upholstery fabric at Joann's, and I cut this piece out of it by using the supplied foam as a template. So now what I'm gonna do basically with these 2 pieces, I'm gonna place them on top of each other, and I'm gonna go ahead and stitch them together. Now, as you can see from the finished one, this black part gets stitched to this red part, and then this red part gets stitched to the base material. Not the foam itself, just kind of like an extra piece. So what I ended up doing is I grabbed some of this leather looking fabric. Again, same thing, I grabbed my piece of foam, put it down, traced it, cut it out, and used it to glue on top of this piece, right? So we stitch all of those fabric pieces together, and then we're gonna glue it to the top of this, and then we're gonna shape it. So I'm gonna go ahead and fast forward through these processes real quick, and then I'll meet you guys back up when it's time to glue it together. It's also important to note that when I made this pattern, I made it a little slightly larger than my foam piece. If you can tell, there's like the little extra edge on all sides, right? This is just going to help so that when I put it over it, I can get it right up to the edge once it's glued, and then just cut out the excess so that it's super flush, all right? All right, so we're done with our, whoops. All right, so we're done with our stitching. As you can tell, I did a little bit of contrast stitching. I put some red on the black and then black on the red. I mean, you don't have to do it that way. You can do it as you see fit. Again, this is so it has a little bit more dimensionality to it. You can definitely use the 2mm pieces of foam that came with your kit and just paint them the appropriate colors and get it done the same way. It's all up to you and the amount of work that you want to put into the kit. All right, we're gonna move on to the paint booth. We're gonna plasti dip this sucker, and I'm gonna come back and show you guys how to put this all together. Okay, we're paint booth bound. I got some plasti dip. I'm gonna go ahead and spray that, make it all black. Probably gonna do front and back, and then let that dry for a little bit, and we'll go back into it. All right, so as you guys can see, round one is a very light coat. You can still kind of see the color of the foam behind it. That's perfectly fine. We're gonna do a second coat, and that's gonna cover all of that, all right? So piece back from the paint shop, nice and dark and plasti dip black flat on this side. This side, you can still kind of see the red a little bit, or whatever color you end up having underneath a little bit, which doesn't really matter to me because this I'm going to use as the inside of my piece. All right, so let's get to it. What I'm going to do is cut up a couple of strips of elastic waistband. I had a bunch of scrap stuff lying around that I'm going to use, but you can go to your local craft store and grab you some of this. Remember, this does come with some clips, so just get yourself some elastic waistband that can fit through the slots of the clip. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and affix these in place with some hot glue. I'm going to do that to all 4 pieces. Fast forward through that process and show you guys the next step. All right, I got all my little parts all ready to go and stretchy, attached to their elastic waistbands. Now what I'm going to do is start attaching these. So what I want to do is figure out what's more comfortable for me to unclip. So I figure if I'm going to put this on my left arm, I want this to come this way and this that way, which means it's going to go like this. So I'm going to put my attachment clips here to the right hand side. Now for you it might be different, you might do it on the left hand side. The orientation of where you put it doesn't really matter as much as the positioning. So you want to put these pretty much about 1/4 of an inch away from their respective edges, and so that they sit flush like this with your base. So I'm going to bring this over here like that, bring this over here like this, and as you can tell on this one that's already finished, see if I can focus in a little bit, right? It's literally right there up against the edge. All right, there's like about 1/4 of an inch space between where your elastic waistband is and the edge. All right, so we're gonna do that, and what I'm gonna do is go ahead and mark where these areas are real quick. Okay. Now that I have these spots marked, grab some hot glue. Or you can do this with barge also. So I'm gonna go ahead and tack all of these down in their respective places. All right, I'm gonna do that for all 4, and I'm also gonna put a little bit of hot glue on top of it, just so to make sure that eventually it doesn't slide out. That way I have hot glue holding it down from the bottom and the top. I'm going to do that to all 4, and then I'm going to show you guys the prep to put the skin on top of everything. All right, now that our glue has cooled down, as you can see, we now have these stretchable tabs that we can pull out, and even though they are flush, this kind of helps when I make these props. It makes it so that it's kind of one size fits all, because whoever ends up wearing this, small wrist or big wrist, it'll fit them regardless. All right. There's definitely many other ways to do this. You can definitely put one long strip here that has these tabs and you connect it from the inside. You can put one long strip here instead of like the two separate strips. It's really up to you how you want to do it. This is just the way that I do it. It's a DIY kit. It's meant for you guys to explore a little bit. All right, so now we're going to get into this. Now remember that we had given these a little extra on the side. Now this will serve two purposes. One, it'll give us enough that we can really cover the entire piece. And two, the way that I'm going to show you guys how to do this one in particular, what I'm going to end up doing is stretching this, curving this a little bit. And because I have the extra on the left and the right, what happens is when you curve it, you kind of lose material, but with the excess, you kind of get it right up at the edge, right? So I'm not going to curve it just yet. I'm going to leave it still kind of flat, and I'm going to go ahead and put barge on both these pieces, on the inside of this and on the surface of this, while avoiding where my straps are. That way, when this piece is glued down and these get pulled, they're not pulling at the fabric or anything like that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through that process and take my time when I actually put the skin down. All right, so we have contact cement on both sides. Use some barge contact cement. And now I'm going to go ahead and start the application process. Now you may have noticed that during the speed through, I was really focusing on the edges. This is super important to me because your edges is really the first place where things might start to come apart. So I really wanted to make sure that the glue really seeped into all of the edge parts, and then the center I just kind of sloppily put it all over just to make sure there was something for it to bite onto. Now, the way that I'm going to do this can be a little hard. If you find that it might be a little too difficult for you, that's absolutely fine. You can literally just align this, place it down, make sure all your edges are facing out, and then just go in and trim your edges. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start from one end here, right, so I got this perfectly nice and flush here in the front corner. I'm going to go ahead and continue that along the sides. So I'm going to make my sides completely flush and nice and aligned as much as possible. And I'm going to glue probably about 1/2 inch of this down. And then now I'm going to curve my piece and I'm going to wrap just the front around its edge while keeping the inside middle here free. So I have my fingers here on the inside and I'm literally just wrapping this around the front edge until I get to the other end. Again, this is something that can be a little difficult right now. I'm not even getting it too right, but if done properly, there we go, success. I gave it a little too much curve there at the beginning. All right, so I still have my center unplugged. I'll go ahead and start lining out my edge here. Okay, keeping the middle disconnected. Okay, I'm gonna keep lining everything up to the edge, all the way to the back. So I get right here. All right, so now that I have this, I'm gonna go ahead and curve my piece. And what's gonna happen is everything's just gonna fall in place. Now, the reason why I do this is because, for example, if you didn't use stretchy fabrics, you might get a lot of pull on your parts when you go to curve it. So this is a way to kind of avoid that. But if you did use stretchy fabrics, like I said, you can just go ahead and put it down flat and then curve it once you're done. In my case, the only fabric that's stretchy is like the faux leather here all the way at the base. And this is just, you know, just a straight flat fabric. It has no stretch to it whatsoever. This piece either. So, all right, I'm gonna go ahead next to my rubber band, waistband areas. Go ahead and clean this up, press this down, make sure that it really sticks. All right, now that this is done, as you can see, these still slide in and out without affecting the actual base of the part. All right, so now what I'm gonna go ahead and do is grab my heat gun. Gonna heat up the bottom side a little bit. All right, so I have that done. Go ahead and put a little bit of curve into the foam so that it tends to want to maintain this kind of like cylindrical shape that would be what goes around your arm. All right. And once you're done, obviously you can do some cleanup on the edges. I don't know if you guys can tell, but literally even with my excess with this technique, I ended up with almost no excess on the edges whatsoever. There's really not that much cleanup for me to do front or back, which is another cool thing about this, because if you do put it on while it's flat, it's really hard to take the excess out of like this area and stuff like that. So it gets a little complicated, but it's all up to you. At the end of the day, it'll all work. So snap, snap. And there you have it, guys. Obviously, you're gonna repeat the process for your other bracer, but that's how you get it done. All right, this probably won't stand. In any case, this is Cass. Hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial. Hope it was useful. And if anything, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Cheers.